Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Hopefully, we'll see Reed here momentarily or possibly next week, but we'll see. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more at www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by special guest from the Washington Times, Mr. Matthew Paris. How are you doing on this beautiful Thursday evening, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. It's always a good time to have you, Matt, because I bring you on here for the specific intellect and being able to look into this football team because I want an update on the sale of the Commanders. And the title of this episode is called Prospectus Patronum, kind of a runoff of Harry Potter. And I want to kind of get your opinion on the prospectus and kind of just explain it to us if you can.
Yeah, it was a really interesting piece of information that ESPN reported this week. Basically what it was a 43-page document that Josh Harris was giving to limited or potential limited partners. And what a limited partner in the NFL is it's a minority owner. They contribute money to the ownership group. They have owner in their title, but they're not necessarily, they don't have controlling vote. But to get investors, basically, Harris put together this document which laid out the financials of the Commanders and kind of what he envisioned, where he envisions the franchise going under his ownership. So, for instance, he projects to double the team's local revenue by 2031-32, basically 8 years from now, almost 9. And so it's just a really interesting look at behind the curtain of where the Commanders are currently, how much they've fallen under Dan Snyder. There's some revealing numbers in there. And then also the projections of where Harris wants to take this franchise. Now, my question is how much of that are rosy projections? You think of those economic impact studies for stadiums that are always put together. I think everyone kind of recognizes those numbers are junk. So are these numbers junk that Harris is projecting, or is it something that this ownership group can realistically expect? I think it's fascinating to see how it will play out.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you don't really ever get to see like a behind the scenes type of a look at all that type of stuff. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note. Sorry, that it's normally not needed for other franchises. I mean, Washington is in such a unique circumstance with how much I think the franchise has fallen or been hurt by that they kind of have to sell the Commanders a little bit and the potential turnaround, and that's okay. I think that it's a unique situation.
Yeah, always got to be different from the other 31.
That's one way to say it.
Kind of piggybacking off the those documents, it was said that he would like to have a stadium by 2031, which a lot of people, I guess, were kind of taken back by that because I guess they kind of figured that the lease ends at FedEx, I believe, in 2027. So I think maybe 2027, 2028, maybe 29 at the latest. I feel like fans maybe thought the stadium would be by then, but just looking at maybe like that date, and it's not like a hard date they said, but do you think that it's possible that they could find a place? I know they said that Virginia would possibly give them the best deal. So I guess it's a two-part question. First question is, do you think that Virginia is, I guess, like in the lead as far as the next home for the Commanders, or do you think that they really want to get it back in DC at the RFK Stadium? And also, what's Maryland and all in this little trio of states? And I guess the second part would be if they can get a process and I guess it might be 3 parts, I don't know. But if they can get a site soon, do you see them being before that 2031 date?
Yeah, I think the stadium race, if you want to call it that, is wide open right now. I know that the prospectus had a lot about Virginia in there. I think they view Virginia as being the most favorable in terms of what municipalities want to fork over the most money. Virginia is a state that, they have the Commanders training facility there. They've done deals with Richmond, but they don't have a stadium. I think it would really be a way for Virginia to make its mark. But at the same time, we've already heard a few local politicians since then kind of urge caution to that number. If you remember last year when Virginia was in the running for a stadium with that bill, the initial amount of money that they wanted to commit originally was $1 billion. That got talked all the way down to $320 million before the deal was killed. So while Virginia is, I think, an enticing option for these guys, I wouldn't rule out DC or Maryland for any reason so far. I mean, DC has a little bit of an uphill climb because that RFK Stadium where they want to build it is still owned by the federal government. That's a major obstacle for them. They have to get involved. And then Maryland, there's the Blue Corridor project in Landover, which is kind of just building around FedEx Field, and a new stadium would be, at least under the old proposal, would be like kind of right next to FedEx, and then they would tear FedEx down and build up the rest of the area. So still a long way to go. But I think the advantage with an ownership change is, Josh Harris doesn't carry the baggage that Dan Snyder has, and now it's a blank slate. But because it's a blank slate, it is going to take a little bit more time. So, sorry, I'm rambling here, but going back to your other question about is the timetable realistic for 2031? I don't know. I read on ESPN today that might be a little bit conservative, but at the same time, Josh Harris and his folks are going to have to come in and learn the lay of the land, and they're going to have to negotiate the deals, I think, themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised if it took that long, but maybe they'll get something done before then.
Yeah, and trust me, the way that they put buildings and how fast they put buildings up these days, if they really want to get it done, they can get it done by 2027. But not to bore everyone to death about off the field stuff, let's bring this back to on the field. Just got announced today that the Commanders are going to be facing against the Ravens, obviously in their preseason game on August 26th or 21st. But they are going to be doing joint practices with them on August 15th and 16th. This is the first time in the Rivera's era here in Washington that they're having joint practices. Kind of talk to us about that, and what is the benefits from this?
Yeah, this is big, I think. I mean, Rivera really wanted to do this last year. They couldn't really get a deal together. I think in his view, this will allow them to start the season faster. Rivera's teams famously kind of start slow, maybe preparing against another team that's not just themselves in practice will help them get there. I don't necessarily know if that'll be the exact reason if they start 2-0 because, training camp practices, joint training camp practices, who knows? But it is exciting. It's exciting to look at another team up close. I loved when they played the Jets in 2018. They hosted the Jets for joint training camp practices. If you remember that brawl that erupted in Richmond, but
DJ Swearinger buckling Terrell Pryor, right?
Right, yeah. And what always sticks out from that camp about me is how excited Josh Norman was about Sam Darnold. The kid would be the future, and that's where we were in 2018. And I think there's long things changed then. So this will be a nice change.
Yeah, and I love Norman, but it doesn't look like he's commentating anytime soon.
He had a box job when
he did.
Yeah,
he did. You're right. You're right.
He was, I'm not worried if he's good enough.
Just stay away from the analyst side of things. It looks like that. So they have mini camps going on right now. Like, I know it's just basically just like they're in shorts and t-shirts. But who's been kind of the standout players, if there has been any standout players? I know during rookie mini camps, Emmanuel Forbes was getting talked about a lot. Just kind of like I said, who's kind of been the standout talked about guy so far?
Yeah, so we haven't had an opportunity as the media to go out and watch any of this stuff yet. That actually comes next Wednesday. So we'll get a chance to see how the veterans kind of react. But yeah, so far all we've seen is rookie minicamp, and I was in that rookie minicamp because I was moving apartments that day. So fortunately, I can't provide too much detail there. But from what it sounds like, Emmanuel Forbes did do great. Other stuff that my colleagues had was that Eric Bieniemy really stood out and was, just to see his impact coaching up close, I think was kind of the big takeaway too. So excited to see that next week when we gather again for the part of OTAs here.
Yeah, and if they think it's bad when they're there, they should wait till when they're not there. I'm sure it even gets even worse with Eric Bieniemy. He
Sure.
really gets to speak his mind. But to wrap this up, Matt, I only have a couple more questions for you. But last 2 seasons ago, they were Washington's defense was one of the worst in the league on third down. Last season, they took a big step in being able to be number one in defense on third down. So this season, in your opinion, what is the most important statistical category that they have to improve in?
Improving, they feel like it's turnovers. That's why they drafted Emmanuel Forbes, is to force more interceptions and fumbles. Forbes had a great history in college at Mississippi State of recording interceptions, but I think the key for them is to still be as productive as they were on third down. As it's they can't afford a regression like they had in 2021. I'll say that much. Look at how good they were in 20. I thought stretches of last season, to be honest with you guys, I thought they played better in 22 than they did in 20. That was, how dominant Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne were as a duo last season.
That's a good point, Matt.
I thought the defensive line was even better last year than they were in 20, even though they didn't have the impact that Chase Young had his rookie season. So, you would like to see Chase Young make a jump this season. I think that would help maybe offset a little bit if there is regression from a guy like Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen. You could argue last season that 3 of the 4 guys on the defensive line had career years. So, it is, you're going to have to watch the regression there. But besides that, yeah, turnovers are a big thing. And then just kind of maintaining where they were a year ago, I think will be key for them.
Absolutely. And my next question for you. Let's bar Emmanuel Forbes. He's not allowed to be chosen for this next question. But what is your prediction for the rookie who gets the most snaps this season?
It's a good one. I think it's going to be Quan Martin. I know it's kind of a bit of a cop-out to go from pick 1 to pick 2, but
no, I think that's a great one because we were actually talking about it in our one group chat today, saying, like, where do you think what goes on with Quan? Do you think he starts? It's a good one.
Right. Well, I think I'll have a better answer for this once we get to see how they line up on the field. But just projecting it right now, I think he's a clear option to be that nickel slot cornerback. This is a defense that loves to deploy 3 safeties. So is that third safety going to be Quan Martin, the guy they drafted in the second round? Or, they are still pretty high on Percy Butler. They have Jeremy Reeves in that mix. But after cutting Bobby McCain, that they need a third safety there. And I think Quan Martin is a natural candidate to fill that role. So I would go with him just because I don't think Ricky Stromberg is going to take over starting center duties for Nick Gates. They signed Gates. They want him. Chris Rodriguez is an interesting option in the 6th round, but, he'll have more of a reserve role depending if he plays. The 2 pass rushers, I think they'll be good rotational pieces, but I don't think they'll have a big role right away. So, I would say Quan Martin is kind of the clear candidate there.
That makes a lot of sense. And you obviously brought up Ricky Stromberg, which brings me to my last question here, Matthew. PFF had put out a tweet. I'm not sure exactly who or where it was from, but PFF had did a projection for Washington's entire roster of their starters. And on the offensive line, they had Norwell starting at left guard, Leno at left tackle. They had Gates at center, Cosme at right guard, then Wiley at right tackle. I want to specifically ask you about Norwell starting there on the left guard, and then would you make any changes to that?
I'll say this about Norwell. We've asked about the left guard competition twice this offseason, and each time Rivera's answered, he has seemingly forgot that Norwell is on the roster. So, the first time it happened in Phoenix, we asked, what about Norwell? And he's like, oh, yeah, Norwell, and kind of like threw him into the mix. But he said that the competition was between Chris Paul and Sadiq Charles. And then I asked on draft night, I asked about Braden Daniels, our 4th round pick, whether he would be an option to start at left guard. Said that he would be more of a tackle option at first, start him there, see how he does. But then the left guard competition would be between Chris Paul and Sadiq Charles. Made no mention of Norwell. So I think Norwell at some point is going to get cut here.
Okay.
I just don't know when that is, and so I would be shocked if he were on the opening day roster.
Real quick, Matt, just to jump off of that, just like any surprise cuts, like there's been people hypothetically talking about Logan Thomas, Kendall Fuller. Could they possibly be cap casualties, do you think?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, I Kendall Fuller is what's arguably their most productive cornerback last year. I know they drafted Forbes. It would be a great way to save money, but I think he's too valuable for what they do. And then Logan Thomas, they're banking on him returning to kind of that 2020 form, 2021 before the knee injury, another year removed. That's the spot on the roster. That's the spot on the roster I think that everyone looks at and saying, what's going on there? And then they don't feel like it's as bad as it is. It reminds me of how we viewed linebacker a few years ago, with Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb. You could actually still say it about linebacker. But specifically a few years ago, before they brought it back, John Bostic, it was like, what are they going to do at linebacker? Why isn't this position better? And then they ended up really doing nothing. So I think that's this year.
I got you. Matt, I can't thank you enough for joining us as always. Have a good weekend, sir. I hope it's peaceful. And get ready for coming up on Wednesday, because I'm telling you, EB is going to be in those guys, and you got to get ready for it. You better hydrate.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully we can get some on video. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Have a good night, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Matthew Parrish from the Washington Times. Always appreciate him taking some time out to join us. But, Hall, it's a pleasure, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. It's been a long Thursday. Randomly had to drive to Ted's house all the way out and basically I always wonder why he switched to Delaware. I'm like, his house is literally 5 minutes from the Delaware border. I'm like, it makes sense now.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, his temperament, he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, but he seems like a Delaware guy.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of temperament, before we get into our fan questions and what everyone has submitted in here, and we're joined by our next guest, I want to ask you and talk about the prospectus that the Harris Group has proposed. Obviously, this isn't a foregone conclusion that it's 100% done, that they're getting the team, but obviously it is a signed agreement. There's still some parameters in place, but obviously we have the confidence that it's going to get done. But I want to talk to you about that prospectus, either the stadium or what their financial projections are for 2031 or below. I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think I was with a lot of people where when you saw the date 2031, 2032 for this new stadium, I was kind of taken aback, whoa, first of all, like you said, the lease ends in 2027, so that's a 4 maybe possibly 5-year gap of what are you going to do in between there? I know you can I guess rent FedEx. It wouldn't even be called FedEx at that point, but you can lease it out for year to year, stuff like that. But then once you I guess read into it more, like you said, it's more of a conservative date, and it could definitely still be done by 2027 or somewhere before and around that time. But as far as the stadium goes, I just really was in the money that we've generated. I was like, damn, we don't make shit. But compared to the rest of the NFL
Jason
teams.
Wright feels, dude.
I know. Now I'm like, it makes sense why all this stuff's been so low budget when they try to do fan stuff and everything like that. But
you're trying to get
end of the day,
Gucci quality out of what's it called? I don't know. TJ Maxx kind of stuff.
Yeah, TJ Maxx and Burlington Coat Factory stuff. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm just really intrigued about where the stadium goes and that whole side of it. I know DC is the number one spot to go to. I would love it to be back at RFK. I think that would be great for not only the team but for just DC in general. But I guess my second site would be I've kind of grown. At first I said FedEx 2.0, but now I've kind of because they're gonna build it up. So I'm it's not just gonna be plain old bland FedEx.
Yes,
but I think National Harbor, the site of National Harbor that they were prospectively looking at, the one I guess you've been talking about. I know it's taken me a while. It's like the RG3 thing. It's taken me a while, but I finally switched over to that side. But I think that would be a great site just because everything that National Harbor already offers, and you can kind of build on top of that and build with that. They have the gambling aspect of it as well, which is big in the NFL now. So all in all, just ready for this to be over with and we can just move on and stop talking about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, dude, I absolutely loved it. And the main reason I loved it because it was leaked. I'm not sure who leaked it. I'm not gonna assume or guess or tarnish anybody by saying that they could have leaked it. But the fact is, the reason why I love the fact that he leaked it is because he just went, just put his meat right on the table. And you know what he said? He said, okay, now you guys start fighting over me. Because you guys have spent this past couple years doing everything possible to say, we're going to disrespect that team as much as we possibly can. And at this point, now the roles have reversed. Okay, now we have new ownership. You got to put your money where your mouth is, and immediately made the politicians come out and start talking. So that Mr. Josh Harris coming in, big meat swinging and coming in and being aggressive with it. I really, really like that because it turns the tide. It turns the momentum of things. And I love the fact that they said that Virginia offered, $1.5 billion. It's absolutely hysterical because could you say he's wrong? Of course. But let's just say that they do win. They turn some heads this season and they actually win a playoff game or what have you. Those projections are not going to look too crazy when they're bringing in as much money as they are in the next year or so.
Oh my God, stop ringing the doorbell.
Right. And so now what's going to happen is those places, those locations are now going to be striving for the Commanders because of how much profit is being brought in. It's going to happen. Honestly, I think the prospectus was a conservative projection, to be perfectly honest with you, just because this is the sleeping giant. We've talked about our friend group, our age group, people that grew up with us, and they didn't want to root for Washington. Like, they didn't want to root for a loser. They didn't want to go to high school and get made fun of for what they were wearing, so they went to other teams. Those kind of young kids are still here in this area, and they haven't made that link, that connection yet. They want that pride. You just need to attach some winning with it, and that will come. I think it's a conservative estimate. I know that's probably crazy. It's asinine, but I've seen crazier stuff happen. And this, for a deprived city for 20 years, I don't think a rapid increase in a short amount of time is crazy to think. I think that's like a recipe for it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you just look at, like you said, people are dying to come back to this team, whether the people on Twitter want to cry about it and say otherwise. People are dying to come back. If you just look at the amount of ticket sales that they've put up so far before, it's not even like the summertime yet. They've already sold a bunch of season tickets to people. Obviously, the vibes at week one are just going to be crazy. I think it's going to be a packed house. And if they win, obviously, I think we play Buffalo at home in week 2 or we away.
Week 3 is Buffalo. Week 2 is Arizona.
Yeah. No, that's week 1.
Well, week 1 is
week
Arizona.
2
is it's at home. Oh my goodness, I can't think of it. It's Broncos.
Yeah, it's out in Denver. Yeah. So, but either way, when we come back home, I feel like if we start off 2-0, it's going to be just week 3 is going to be bonanzas at FedEx Field. And another thing I liked about what the prospectus that got leaked, that he said he's going to try to put money into FedEx to kind of build FedEx up a little bit and make it a little bit more desirable for fans to come to. And so I definitely think that, whenever Harris finally takes over and gets his hands on everything and gets in there, I think hopefully I'm going to like the upgrades and everything that comes with him and his group.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't put much stock into that whole FedEx claim. I think what they're going to do is they're going to put money in to make sure that it's not an embarrassment. They're just going to.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't mean like they're going to build it up to like a whole like elite stadium. I just mean like they're going to it's not going to be a dump anymore. Like it's going to be just like a standard. It's going to be like average. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not going to be bottom tier. It'll be like around that average type of just a normal everyday stadium.
But that being said, we have heard from people that it's not really that bad. It's just the losing
I know.
Made it all worse.
Yeah, obviously. Of course. Now, I mean, look at 2012 when RG3 was here. It was packed as hell, and it was still a dump then. So
yeah, nobody was complaining about the overflowing of the urinals back then, right?
Exactly.
Everyone was happy to be stepping in that piss water. Now, this goes to our fan questions. This one is from the Colonel. He says, Hall, I don't hate the selection of Chris Rodriguez at running back because he's highly rated, but I'm a little flummoxed why we picked another big bruising downhill runner to augment Robinson. Is Antonio Gibson going to assume the role of J.D. McKissick, catching passes out of the backfield? Also, please comment on Jarrett Patterson, Jonathan Williams, and Alex Arma's future with the team.
Yeah, Jarrett Patterson, if I had to make a guess right now, he's probably a practice squad guy or maybe possibly gets cut. I think Jonathan Williams probably will be the practice squad guy. The Chris Rodriguez pick I was kind of puzzled at it in the beginning because we do have Jonathan Williams and the limited work that he did get last year. And when you have seen him in this backfield, he's kind of been that power guy, moves the pile, runs downhill, hard, kind of aggressive runner. But I guess Chris Rodriguez obviously is younger and he was rated a third, like a second or third or fourth round pick. He had a DUI situation and whatnot, so it kind of dropped him a little bit. But once you find out that Eric Bieniemy is the one that was really kind of banging the table for him, he was sticking out like a sore thumb, like they said. He was one banging the table for him. You think that, okay, Eric Bieniemy wants this guy on the team, on the roster, in his offense. He's going to find a role for him. As far as Antonio Gibson goes, I am hoping that he gets a little bit more involved in the passing game. Go back to week 1 versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Like that, I feel like that was a preview of what could be for what we thought was going to be the rest of the season, but ended up not being that. It never happened again. I don't know why. It was really, really weird. Probably why Scott Turner doesn't have a job right now, among other things. But I'm hoping that Eric Bieniemy, who's coming from that Kansas City tree, the Andy Reid offense, where they really utilized the running back out of the backfield. Look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire when he was healthy and he was there his rookie year. I guess he's still there technically, but look at Isaiah Pacheco.
The writing's on the wall with that.
Yeah, exactly. Isaiah Pacheco, who another 7th-round pick guy or later-round pick guy who really thrived in Eric Bieniemy's offense last year, came on, was catching passes out the backfield. Jerick McKinnon is there, who's kind of like a plus ×2 J.D. McKissick. But I think that, like you said, Antonio Gibson, I think he's going to be the J.D. McKissick role. I think they're going to get really creative with him. And just the simple fact that, like I said before, I think the motto in the league now is pass to win and run, or pass to score, run to win. So if they're going to try to implement that type of offense with the quick game, the passing game, and really be a passing first offense, then I think that it would be smart to have a guy like Chris Rodriguez. You can pound the rock with Brian Robinson. When you get to that third, fourth, late in the game, you're not going to want to tackle guys like Brian Robinson, Chris Rodriguez coming at you downhill, full speed. So, yeah, I just think that, like I said, in the beginning I was puzzled. And if you look at the running back room overall, I think it is a really pretty solid room and with a lot of versatile weapons. And you got Curtis Samuel, who you can utilize in the backfield as well. So should be a pretty special, unique offense in the backfield this year.
Yeah, Colonel, I understand why you're flummoxed as to why we picked up another big bruising downhill runner, but I do think that the way that we are looking at that is incorrect because we have to look at it. I think the most important thing is pass blocking and run blocking, and that's something that Chris Rodriguez did at college last season. There was actually a point where he would line up as a fullback and go in as a lead blocker or even take the ball and be able to run with it. And so he kind of brings you that versatility. So that's why Alex Arma would kind of go underneath of Chris Rodriguez. But the pass blocking, that's what J.D. McKissick was the best on the team with. But then Brian Robinson comes in, and he's a very good pass blocker. I mean, elite, legit, very good pass blocker. But what happens if you lose Brian Robinson? Are you confident in Antonio Gibson and his ability to be able to pass block, and Jonathan Williams and Jarrett Patterson? And I would say no. I love their running style. I will say, what they do.
To that point, I thought the same thing.
He did get better last season.
He was one of the better backs in the league last year at pass blocking, so he's been getting better.
He did get better, but you do also want that reassurance just to make sure, just in case. And that's why I think it's more about pass blocking than it is about run style or anything like that. It's more so just being able to be, you don't have to depend on that pass blocking as much or be concerned about it, if that makes sense. And then Antonio Gibson, I think it's very easy to say that he should be used in the passing situations. You know, obviously coming as a wide receiver, we thought that he was going to be used more as a wide receiver in 2020, and then he was just strictly used as a runner. And I think that Eric Bieniemy is going to put him to his strengths, and the easiest part to do that is the J.D. McKissick role, like you said, absolutely. Jarrett Patterson, Jonathan Williams and company, they got an uphill battle. You know, Eric Bieniemy brought his boy in, and I know Jarrett Patterson, I follow him on Twitter, he's very, very passionate about working hard for this football team, and I'm really excited for him. I hope he continues to work hard because I'm a small guy. You know, you're a small guy. We root for guys like that, and I hope that he continues to work hard because there's a spot here. You just got to earn it, man, and it's all up to you. You know what I'm saying? Now let's move to our next question, and this one is from Twitter. So let's ask our man Deuce Alicious. He says, Hall, do you think regardless of location, timeline, etc., the new stadium will be that big monster vision of a village?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not going to be like that right away, but if you just look at what they've done with in DC with Nat Stadium, when they first started building that place up, it was like just Nat Stadium. Now, if you fast forward, I mean, it's been 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it's been now. But if you would have just fast forward like 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road when they first built Nat Stadium, you have restaurants all over the place. Yeah, different places to eat, like restaurants, different types of coffee shops, little bars and restaurants. And then if you fast forward to now, I mean, we get contracts all the time there for all them apartment buildings down there and all those condos and whatnot. So I definitely think that, yeah, if you look at what they've done in Southeast at that stadium and kind of apply that to what they want to do with the new stadium, I definitely think that it could be that type of like little like mini city or whatever they call it, want to call it.
Yeah, I do think the big difference is here is that Ted Lerner obviously had a corporate realty company. It was very easy for him to buy out those businesses and flip them and change
Yeah.
that whole area. Obviously, RFK is going to be different because of what happens with the the actual location, right? Because the federal government does own it. Do I think it's going to be that monster vision of a village? I'm not sure. Just because you don't know where it's going. If it's like Virginia, Virginia offers the most space and most likely the most money. We've known for a long time that I think it was like 60% of the people that went to FedEx Field were Northern Virginia residents. You should navigate towards the money. Those are the people that are paying you the most, and if they have the most, then that's where you should go. But that being said, my biggest thing is the view. So I don't really care about that whole huge Dorito or huge what is it called? I don't even know. I'm not. I can't think for Pringle. The whole huge Pringle Stadium. You know that concept they brought up. I don't care if it's that.
Yeah. It does look like
I
a
don't care
Pringle.
about the village and all that. I just care about the view and having a good location. The build up, you shouldn't necessarily need it. You should be putting it location, location, location. But if it does need it, there's nothing wrong with it. What's up, Deuce? How you doing, brother? We are joined by our next guest from Redzone in the lab. What's going on, man?
What's going on? How y'all doing, man?
Doing great,
Chilling,
man. I
chilling,
really
chilling.
appreciate you joining us this evening. I know you're a very busy individual, but I wanted to ask you about the new stadium because Deuce Alicious asked us this question. Like, do you think it's going to be that massive, huge concept of a whole shops and everything being around it?
I think that was the intentions. Before the other guy that we do not name, his goal was to make like a little small city. I think that would have been a great idea, kind of make it like a little small commander type city when you have different shops around, different hotels, eateries, restaurants, shopping, all those different types of things to kind of bring the community all together. I think that would be a great idea.
It would be a great idea because I think the whole blueprint provided by Jerry from Jerry's World and obviously in Texas
Right.
that you want your own little mall outside outdoor mall so to speak with the stadium. But Deuce, I want to get your this next question. This is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi, we've heard
Or
nothing but talk about the new stadium. If you were in charge, where would you put the new stadium and do you take the Virginia money?
oh man, it's tough. I think when you're talking about logistics, what makes the most sense, you can do everything in one place. I think you look at Maryland, right? You look at what's already there. You look at that Landover area, which was supposed to be part of the initial when RFK first got there, right? And you look over there at Woodmore, that's what it was supposed to look like, that area over in Woodmore. That's really built up. It's really nice. It's really coming along. But then you look at RFK. Everyone wants RFK, right? But what does DC have? Legacy and tradition as a down payment. I don't think that's going to work, right? Because DC is not going to put out money. And my only thing about DC is, for those of you that's kind of familiar, on the backside of RFK is a neighborhood called a community called River Terrace, and that's one of the last specifically Black communities with single family homes that is mostly Black. That's my only concern is what are they going to do to take care of them? Are they going to try to ship them out or to give them an opportunity to stay there? That's one of my concerns. And then you have the harbor, and people talking about, the nature part of it. You want to knock down some more trees. What was there first before MGM and everything? It was trees. And then, money always going to trump nature. And it's a sad thing, but it's the truth, right?
Yeah, their
And
house
then
that
you
their house that they're living in most likely was sitting where trees were too.
exactly, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Right, right. All the residences up there, that
Right.
little those houses, those single family townhouses up there were all trees at first. So I don't think that's going to be a hindrance. And then you have one Loudon, like I think Virginia's going to be the ones that's going to be able to come up with most of the money there, and everything is out there already, and the air is fresh out there, right? Let's just be
It's true,
honest.
man. I love going
Yeah.
that side of Virginia. It's like obviously the traffic is not all too crazy as deep as Arlington or Alexandria, but you're right, dude. It just seems clearer out there, peaceful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, they have like for me, I don't, it doesn't really matter to me, man. Like wherever it goes, I'm in a position to get there, within an hour and a half, for each distance. Well, no more than an hour and a half. So for me, man, I don't, I'm cool with it anyway. But those are my four locations and reasons behind being there or not being there.
I got you. I got you. For me personally, I think that I've said for a while, obviously RFK is the one moneymaker because it automatically generates excitement because you're going back to the history, right? And that would automatically be incentive for a lot of people to come back. And it would be huge and profit wise, right? And I think that's the big dilemma for the new ownership group. Do you go to where the most money is offered, but you have to go to a newer location? Or do you go to the place that's going to cost you more money, but you know there's more profit in it in RFK? That being said, the only location that I am taking seriously in Maryland is the National Harbor, where you can actually do something innovative. You can make it have a view. You can make it look beautiful and state of the art and brand new and something that we haven't seen around here that would create some excitement but would also keep it in Maryland. You wouldn't have to relocate anybody or anything like that. And I know other people are concerned about environmental issues, right? What if the water gets contaminated based on the building there? I worked at Exelon building in Baltimore that was built on top of an old mercury factory where they had an issue with it below. Trust me when I tell you, they can take care of it. There's a lot of money that could go into it that makes sure that they will not happen. And the construction sites are very, very detailed and making sure that doesn't happen because they will be like sued. You know what I mean? So it's not that big of a concern. So for me, National Harbor, but RFK's a number one, man. And do I take the imaginary money from Virginia? No. Just because I think Tim Harris is a dog, man. He knows how this process works. And he knows how to get the things generating a little bit. Get the guys talking, and he certainly did that with the prospectus. And so I'm all for it, man. Get the conversation started. He's not wasting any time.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that RFK would definitely be my number one spot, just because, like you said, the legacy behind it, just the excitement that all the fan base, old and new, would
Obviously,
have.
winning trumps all. I think we.
Okay,
Yeah,
winning
most
terms, all,
definitely.
of course, but I just want to be one of them teams where we're like not getting laughed at because you like panning over the crowd and it's like 50-50 like away and home fans or 60-40, whatever the split might be. I just want to be back to like one of those respectable home crowd advantage type teams. And RFK, even if they weren't winning at the time, RFK would definitely bring that back just because of the nostalgia of it and it being back in DC.
Yeah,
Um,
if it goes back to RFK, they have to have the seats that have to be able to move.
Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Number two spot was, like I said earlier, I've shifted from the whole like FedEx 2.0 and like that whole area to that National Harbor area where like you said, you gotta tear down some woods, but like you said, I mean, they're gonna get torn down at some point anyway. They build some apartments or whatever it
Right.
may be because they're building apartments everywhere around here. So
That's right.
it's gonna get built. Yeah, it's gonna get torn down for something. Might as well put it towards a stadium and a little mini community village type thing. So yeah, those are my two like main spots. If you want to put everything in once, like training facility and stadium all in one, and make it like the actual headquarters for the team, obviously I could see it in Virginia because they have the most space. Supposedly they have the most money to offer. So and even though I know a lot of the fans are like from Virginia, 60%, whatever there might be, I would actually
I
like
made that up. It's been a while
I
since I
know,
saw
but
it.
I know like more fans come from like that Virginia area. But I'd actually like to see what the numbers would be now that Dan Snyder's supposedly selling and more people are supposedly coming back. I would want to see what that kind of split and that breakdown is now. It's probably still more Virginia, but yeah. So those are my top two spots. RFK for the nostalgia and that home field advantage of just like everyone being excited that it's back in DC, even if they're not winning at that time. And my second spot would be National Harbor, just because you already have the stuff at National Harbor out there on top of, yeah.
Stealing all my
I mean,
bits, man.
yeah, I mean,
There's only so many spots you can pick from.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're thinking about it, right? If you want to do the headquarters, you want to do the stadium, and you can have two. Like you can put the headquarters at RFK, put the headquarters at RFK, put the stadium at the harbor, and then you can have like this furry thing going on. Like it's already furry from like the harbor down to the waterfront. Then you can add a stop, like to go to that area with headquarters. Maybe put up some small shops there to be able to go there. So that's a whole nother part that you can also add if you want to do both, the whole ferry experience.
Imagine the stadium is near water, like the National Harbor.
Exactly.
Imagine allowing people to come up in their boats and to be able to tailgate before games on their boat. Come on, bro.
That's crazy.
You don't
right?
tell me you don't get excited about that. Come on now. Now, this next question is from Twitter, Deuce. This is from Scoot. I'm going to go to you with this one. I don't know too much, he says, but weren't we last in practice facilities and other ratings? Is the new owner expected to replace or renovate what's there?
Yes, right. I mean, we've heard the stories about our facilities in Ashburn being small. I mean, it to the point where there was a story going around. There were some pictures where Kirk Cousins had to be in this little closet type area for a desk for him to sit at, right? And Jason Wright and Ron had to come in, and everyone that was working at Ashburn for them to create space, they had to pack them up and move all of them to FedEx. So there are definitely issues with the facilities. I mean, we've heard from former players that's been here. So I think that's one of the first things that they should look into doing when they talking about upgrading, even talking about upgrading FedEx, is to upgrade those facilities currently that they have.
Absolutely. And obviously we all have to come look at this as a realistic mindset, right? Like we've talked to Anthony Armstrong before when he was trying to get into the league. He was on a XFL team or something, and he had to practice in a parking lot, in a gravel parking lot. And like, just let's put that in perspective. And obviously they still need to get better, but that's what's expected, is that Harris is going to come in and be able to renovate everything and make sure players are comfortable. Because I think by now it's very obvious that things were looked over, and it was more so about image. It was more so about pumping up to make it look like something that it's not, almost like North Korea's ghost cities and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Now let's move to our next question. This is from Tony Franchise Hall. Who are your guys' 3 favorite players to wear the burgundy and gold? This is a good one.
Like all time?
Yeah.
Obviously Sean Taylor's number 1. I would say Trent Williams number 2, and number 3. I'm gonna take it back. I was a big Chris Cooley guy back in the day when he was here, so I would say Chris Cooley.
Dude, you basic white girl, man. Literally, if you went to any Washington game back then, every single time, blonde girl, Cooley jersey. Every single time. All right. For me, my 3 guys, obviously Sean Taylor is going to be one. The other is going to be Sammy Ball. Just simply, obviously, I didn't get to see him play, but just the fact that him being quarterback, also being able to be kicker, defensive back as well, Hall of Fame player, one of the best to ever represent this organization. It's Sammy Ball. Last, it's Terry. It's Terry, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody asked me this question about a month or so ago, and I really didn't have a favorite. Like, I never really sat down and thought about. I mean, of course, Sean Taylor pops out for everyone, and we all know, the kind of what's behind that. But like for me, I would go Terry McLaurin. That'll be 3 for me. Number 2, I go Trent Williams. And number 1, like I kind of put it out there on the tweets the other day, my all-time favorite Redskin is Trey Johnson. Like that's my all-time favorite Redskin is Trey Johnson, man. Just the way he used to move, the way he used to come around that corner, like Human didn't have no regards. Like he used to come around that corner on those straight counters, man. And growing up, when I really started watching football, that was one, because I started out playing guard, and that was one of the first things that I noticed is watching him. But yeah, number one is Trey Johnson for me for sure.
Yeah, I might get pushed around a little bit, Deuce, but I'd play next to you, man. And now I want to give this next question for you. This is from Big Tony Shivers. Wave a magic wand, and you can go to any of the road games, all expenses paid. Which one are you going to?
Hollywood, right? The Rams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any other is there any other answer than that? All expenses paid, as expensive as going to be there? Yeah, definitely Hollywood.
Hollywood, LA. My boy Tim obviously is out there. I was just texting him the other day. It was really weird because I told him about it on the pod, and then he was like, "Yo, I had a dream about you randomly last night." I was like, "That's kind of weird, but it's cool, man. We're grown men. It's cool."
Yeah.
But for me, obviously LA. But the other intriguing one that I will say is Atlanta. Obviously their new stadium. I think that's actually gonna be a really good game. You know, I was very high on Desmond Ritter. Kyle Pitts is also my guy. I would love to go down there and see that game going against Bijan Robinson and Kyle Smith versus Ron Rivera. I would love to go down there and see that game just because I think it's going to be a great one. But of course, it's LA.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely LA. Who doesn't want to go to the West Coast? Nice weather, sunny, palm trees, and all expenses paid. All expenses paid. I mean,
And all the
can't get no better than that.
Smog you can want.
I was trying to go to the Denver game, but of course it's like week 2, and I'm like, I'm already going to week 1. I can't just like turn around and jump on a flight and go to
Why not?
this week 2.
Come on,
Because
man.
Courtney will flip out like, boy, what the hell are you doing?
There. No, you're right.
I got to convince her just to go to LA in December. She's gonna be like, boy.
You're absolutely right. Now let's go to our next question. I'm going to ask you, Deuce. This is from Hefe Miles, our boy Jeff. Every year we are plagued with injuries, being one of the most injured teams in the league, and having another late bye week has me worried. I'm sure we've hired new people by now, but I haven't heard any confidence in our training staff since there was that raid on the facility. Am I tripping for having a legit worry about our health and training staff? Why is no one else asking about it or talking about it?
The bye week for sure is very troubling. Like I think we had a late bye week last year, and what is it, like week 14?
Yeah, and it didn't even matter really. We played worse
Yeah.
after the bye.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, right. So that was definitely concerning. So hopefully these next couple of years after this season, we will be our bye week would be more favorable. But I don't know. I think I kind of disagree a little bit. Yes, we did have injuries to key pieces last year, but I think they did a fairly good job last year. I don't think we had, and it looks bad, right? When you talk about the centers and all those different types of injuries going down, but I think we did fairly well. And also Ron Rivera, like when you think about injuries and Ron Rivera, like if you have like 4 to 6 week type time frame for an injury, it's going to be closer to the 6 week just because of Ron Rivera. Like he takes extreme caution dealing with injury. So
because he cares about his players' future.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's great. That's a good thing. And we talk about Chase, like no one should be on the football field if they're not 100% sure that they should be out there. This game is too dangerous. Like we saw last year with Buffalo, somebody actually died on the field. Yes, that's very rare. That's the first time it happened. But you should not be out there if you're not 100% committed. I don't care who you are. But as far as the injuries, I think they did pretty good. It's just that, injuries is football, man. It wasn't like no hamstrings and no like little small lingering type injury. I mean, except for Jahan, I think, right? And again, he was more so on the max side of that week. He's at 5 weeks. So
yeah, and I don't think that you're crazy or you're not tripping for having a legit worry about the health.
Yeah.
The training staff maybe just because I don't think the training staff has really all that much to do with the injuries. Like more so with treatment of injuries. I think you could probably make that argument for. But with injuries, I think it has to do a lot with luck and preparation. And I do think the preparation aspect on the players' behalf and possibly the training staff as well, getting them prepared for strength and conditioning, there has to be a change of philosophy or something. I know that they're using a lot of data to gauge it, but there does seem to be a disconnect. The Philadelphia Eagles last season had barely any injuries. And obviously we saw how far they went. Look, very good, talented football team. But Lord knows if they had the injuries that we did to as many starters as we did, most likely they aren't making the run that they are. And so injuries are pivotal. They're vital to what goes on with a football team. We've said this for years. Usually the most healthy team goes the farthest in the playoffs, unless you have Pat Mahomes, of course. But I do think it's big. It is a good concern to have. I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt that they can turn it around. Like, I don't want to sit here and say the training staff is a problem. That's why all the injuries are happening. They haven't made any changes, so expect it again. I'm not going to go that way. Maybe they do get lucky this year. It's not a big concern, but there is a legitimate worry about the health because it has been a thorn in our backside every single year.
Yeah, I think they need to do more in August. And doing practicing, like I'm so glad. Like, we were supposed to have Buffalo, then the whole JD thing happened last year, but like they have to do more in practice, run harder, stretch more. Like they have to do more of that in August. I think that'll help too.
Yeah, and obviously the CBA has a lot to do with that. And
I mean, not running, like you can run.
No, it's true.
Cardio,
but it's just like the dedicated practice time and just making sure that your body is prepared for it. Because a lot of the times it's not like people don't get injured because they're overworking something. It's usually because they haven't prepared it enough for the event that it's going through, right? And so a lot of that goes into it. Hall, anything?
Yeah, no, you guys pretty much hit on what I was going to say. I just think that if you go back to 2020, like the COVID year, which there should have been a lot of like not injuries, but a lot of like people like come up positive and got to sit out, whatever, blah blah blah. Randomly, that was like the best that they've been as far as like guys not missing any games. But like you guys said, injury bug, like teams catch it all the time. Look at San Francisco 49ers; they get pieces injured left and right every single year.
Well,
but it's just about. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, they're like Debo misses time all the time. Trent will miss a couple games here and there. Nick Bosa misses games. So like they have their like key players that miss games. The difference is they have so much depth behind those guys that they don't really miss a beat. And I think our problem here is it's not really like the injuries overall. Like, yes, injuries suck and you don't want them to happen, but I think it's more of like it happened to the key position. So it's more of a glaring I guess thing. But then you don't really have like the super depth behind them to actually make up for the injured player and who's missing. So it just makes it look even worse.
Yeah,
so I definitely think that
I understand what you're saying, and you're 100% right. The only counter argument I will say is that with Washington, what seemed to happen is when those injuries happen, it's not just to the starter; it's happening to the depth as well, which makes it 10 times worse.
To Deuce's point, I think that, and this might have to do with the slow start as well. Like they don't do a lot of like pad on pad stuff with Ron Rivera, like come August in training camp. And I definitely think that them scrimmaging against and practicing with the Ravens will definitely help with that because, I mean, Brian Mitchell says it all the time. The only way to get conditioned for football is to get calloused up by hitting the pads and actually play football. So if you got guys sitting out during training camp and not really like hitting, like I know you can't, like you say, you can't really hit like you used to back in the day, but those times where like you got like 7-on-7 drills or like 5-on-5 or 5-on-7 drills, that type of stuff. Just like guys got to get more like in shape, I feel like. And then like you said, I feel like part of it might be the treatment of the players and how Ron Rivera like looks at his guys where he's like you said, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll check you at 5 and see how you're feeling. We're not going to check you at 3 and see how you're feeling. So I think that goes into it as well.
Yeah, there is no real pressure behind to force these guys out there if they don't want to go. But we have 2 questions to wrap this up, Deuce. I want to ask you. This is from our guy Tim Towner in the Discord chat. Thank you, Tim. He says, so the sale of the team must be completed in a 90-day window that started on May 10th, which the 90-day mark would be August 8th. And it appears that the talking heads think that is what's going to happen, which makes him think, Deuce. What is the best vacation you have ever been on? With whom? For how long? And also, where do you think that you would like to go, but have not had the chance to do so yet?
Yeah, I better say my wife, right? Like that has to be the person. That's something, man. I would say Hawaii. I think when we went to Hawaii and we did the whole experience, no, I'm just slipping my mind what is it called, but it's from 6 a.m. all the way to like 9 p.m. I think that was the best experience I had as far as a vacation for sure.
Yeah, for me, obviously, it was my honeymoon with my wife. We went down to Mexico, to Cancun, and Playa del Carmen, and it was awesome, dude. Absolutely beautiful down there. Everything free. It was just different being in that environment. It was absolutely awesome. Now, where do you think you would like to go? I would like to make a trip over to the UK. I'd like to make a trip over to the shipping yard or port there. I'd go hop on a little yacht that was recently built by none other than DS. I'd go on that yacht. I'd sit right next to him. I'd have a beer in my hand. He'd have one. And I'd look at him and I'd say, what the fuck, dude? That's what I would like to do.
For me, I want to go to Rome.
That's a great one.
I want to see the Colosseums. Like I'm a big gladiator guy. Like I'm a big old school, those type of things, and it'll be a dream. It is a dream for me. Definitely on my bucket list to go to Rome and see the Colosseum.
Paul's looking up destination travel places right now.
Right. My best vacation was definitely Cancun a couple years back. It was like all inclusive resort, so just everything was nice, 5-star restaurants, all that good stuff.
So he doesn't remember much, but it was a great time.
Yeah, something pretty much. Yeah,
That's a good thing.
Threw up on a rock, so left my mark in Mexico. As far as where I want to go, I've always wanted to go to like Bermuda, just because I'm a big beach guy, and I've always wanted to go to like a place where they got blue water. You can like see right through the water, see your feet when you're like standing in the water. And honestly, my boy Trey.
Man, Hall is.
I know, I'm a simple man. That's simple things.
I could just see you sitting alone in the blue water.
I will say, my man Trey was just out there, and I was looking at his Snapchats, and he was like at this golf course out there in Bermuda, and like every single hole was just like such like a nice view with the ocean in the background, and everything looks so nice. So I would definitely go to Bermuda and play some golf out there.
Yeah,
simple.
I would just being honest. It was just a joke. I wouldn't like to. That would sound like hell. Now this next question, I'm going to go to you, Deuce. This is from our guy Chris Comerton. Not sure if this has been asked, but would you guys like to see the team on Hard Knocks? Why or why not? I know you're in a hurry right now, Deuce.
No, I'm actually good.
Okay.
I moved it to 6:30 because this is my first time being on here
with
Mike, so it's an honor.
Yes, sir. I know. I missed you last time.
Yeah.
Missed you last time, man.
Like first, I
hold on, dude.
Okay, go ahead.
You also got to join the spaces sometime, man. So when Deuce comes back in, you got to get on the spaces with us.
Yeah, man. You got to get on the spaces.
I know.
Man.
I'll be at work, man. I'll be walking around. I forget my headphones at work, so I can't be walking around with my phone in my ear like this all day.
They got the TV. They got the TV playing. They got ESPN on. He can listen.
Yeah, he can listen. But yeah, man, it would definitely be an honor for you to jump in and join us and chop it up a little bit. So at first I wasn't a fan of Hard Knocks because I'm like, look, man, we need to get this together, get this owner in here, fix it up. I know they're gonna be all in the facilities and the stories we heard about. I don't want nobody saying any of that. Like that's my only hindrance about having Hard Knocks on this year. But I mean, it fits though, right? Like it fits. Like it checks every single box.
You have Lamar there. Knocks. You have the Lamar with his contract that could be there for right. Like that's big storyline.
Yep. You have Ron. You have come on, the sale, the team. Jason Wright acting like he ain't got no parents in the house. It's so much. It's so many storylines. You got the rookie that one just lost his grandmother. I think Rodriguez lost his mom and Jank. So it's like it's so much. You got the Chase Young stuff. I mean, it's so much. It fits. I mean, I would actually be surprised if we don't get Hard Knocks.
Yeah, and Deuce, I was just like you. Like usually I'm against Hard Knocks just because of all the craziness that it would bring and the extra pressure and everything like that. But given with new ownership, I think this is the perfect circumstance of what we want to bring, because whenever Hard Knocks does come around, typically there is a national uptick in support for that team that's on Hard Knocks, because you get to find out about people. You want to root for those people to be successful. And I think that's something that Washington probably needs on the national scale, because how they're nationally looked at. Because once you find out who these guys are and once they start talking, people are going to be impressed by what's here in the Commanders. And I feel like we're going to get a lot more supporters than that, especially people that are in the military around the country that maybe aren't in tune with football but would tune in for Hard Knocks. Maybe they'd make a connection and say, wow, that's freaking incredible. So I would absolutely love the idea, just given the extra fact of bringing more excitement into Washington is not a bad thing, and I want that stadium packed up for every single game. I want that home field advantage back, and I've been wanting it for a long time. But, one day, and hopefully that day is week one against Arizona.
Yeah, I've been all about them being on Hard Knocks whenever they got announced that we were one of the teams that made like the final cuts and whatnot.
Cam Curl's extension too.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like,
yep.
just like Deuce said, the storylines are just crazy behind this team. Like you said, Chase Young, Ron Rivera, and everybody in the fourth year got to win now. You got Eric Bieniemy in a new place. How's he going to
Oh,
work with
yep,
Sam
that's another
Howell in the
one.
offense?
Cancer. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it's
Yes,
all
exactly.
there.
Like
It's all, but
The
new team
legs,
or new ownership.
the
So you're like
legs, the
you're
legs.
presenting that whole like, yep, exactly. You're presenting that whole like new era in Washington type of thing for Hard Knocks. And the main thing would be guys like Cam Curl, guys like Terry McLaurin, guys like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, guys that we know that are ballers but don't get nationally looked at as like
Yeah.
top tier guys. Maybe like John Allen and Deron Payne's they got paid. But a guy like Terry McLaurin, who we all think is like a top 10 guy, never gets talked about nationally unless
Right.
they're talking about some crazy catch he had to go up and make in a crazy like 50-50 type situation. So I want to show them guys some love for the national people to show like what good guys they are, what great players they are, and just the future of Washington and how we're about to start building on it. Because like you said, look at the guys in Detroit. Detroit was on there last year. All of a sudden, they're the darling of the NFL.
Yep.
Mhm.
They obviously had to win a couple of games to get to that point, but now going into next year or this year, I mean, that are talking to the NFL like, oh, they're going to take that next step. And I think that Washington could definitely be that team that's like, oh, let's get behind Washington, new owner. They have some really great guys on their team. Everyone already likes Ron Rivera anyway. And then we make some noise. And the next thing you know, going into like that second year or 2024, we'll be the darlings of the NFL. We'll be talked about a little bit more, and we'll finally get just a little bit more slither of respect.
And one thing I will add to it is, obviously they only got one primetime game for the year. Primetime
Two.
just mean or two evening. That could change with Hard Knocks, obviously, because with what's going on, it could generate that excitement and everything, and I would be all for it. I think it's a fantastic idea, but Lord knows, because of what goes on in New York, that it probably will go.
I was just going to say, they got Aaron Rodgers up there. They got the more star power up there, so it'll probably go to New York. And
But we got the storylines, Hall.
Oh, no, trust me. I'd rather pick storylines over star power, but you know how TV
Terry
is.
needs it. He needs it, man, especially guys like him, Deron Payne. They really do need it.
That's what I'm saying. Cam Curl's like not talked about in that top tier of safeties.
It just
like he
concerns
should
me
be.
with Sam Howell.
Perfect spot for Cam Curl to get talked about and sit on a national stage.
Just concerns me with Sam Howell with maturity. You don't want any like fame or anything going to his head, but hopefully it wouldn't. We got the right guys in place.
That man came into North Carolina as a freshman. Wasn't all like big headed, like, oh, I'm the man. Like, so
He had to fight then. He
doesn't seem like that type of guy that's gonna like get all big headed and like, oh, I'm the starting quarterback. Look at me, like like he seems like a more like
be very important this year.
Oh yeah, he seems like a chill, just like low key type of dude.
Yeah, and I heard somebody in our Discord say that we're going against of the top 16 edge rushing teams. I think we go against 13 of them.
Oh my gosh, I haven't even looked at that yet.
It is going to be very, very difficult for the offensive line, given with what happened last season. But look, I have confidence in this coaching staff, man. I think things are kind of moving around a little bit, and I think Hard Knocks is the right move. But Deuce, I can't thank you enough, man. Obviously, gotten to know you a little bit. Appreciate you, and you work really hard, dude. You build up a great thing.
That.
There are a lot of people support you. A lot of people really hang their hat on what you say and all that. Just say, like, obviously, I take notice of stuff like that, and you should take very good. Accept that and just say, you know what, I do a good job.
I appreciate that, man. It's all about everyone else, for sure.
Absolutely, man, because that's all it's about. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
I'm Deuce.
You're Deuce, my man. I wanted to do a bit for this one, but I forgot. But I was going to be like, hi, I'm Craig Melvin. And these are secrets uncovered. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Monday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched the BurgundyZone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!